What's on, where, and when. It's the Talk of Nelson. NBS Talk Nelson.
At NBS, we believe in banking for life. For over 160 years, we've been a trusted banking provider for generations of locals like you. We know our clients personally and build long-term relationships with them, offering flexibility by giving our staff freedom to make quick decisions to put them first. Experience banking for life with NBS.
The Mako Rugby Roundup.
Welcome to the Mako Rugby Roundup. I'm Chris Butler, and with me once again, Les Edwards.
Yes, nice to be here, mate.
Got the Celtic colours on, the Maris colours on, although it's Brazil rugby representing today.
Yeah, bit of Collingwood colours.
Collingwood colours as well. Yeah, well, very appropriate because Quinten is from that region. Before we go any further, must give a shout out to the Turf Hotel, Stan and the team. And don't forget to check out the Facebook page for everything that's on this weekend. And I suppose a lot more cricket starting to happen at the moment as the seasons wind down, but there are NBC finals still to go. Before we dive deeper, must introduce and welcome back to Mako skipper Quinten Strange. Welcome back, Quinten.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good to be back.
Yeah, so unfortunately, I'm in a sling at the moment, so weren't able to see the rest of the season out. But how are things with the injury? What actually happened with the injury?
Yeah, obviously, yes, in the sling is a bit frustrating. A bit frustrating watching the fellas at the back end of the season. But yeah, against Wellington there in that first Shield defence, I tore my pec off the bone. So had surgery maybe 3 weeks ago, and I'm on the mend now. So a few more weeks in the sling, then I can get it out and start my proper rehab.
Yeah. So surgery here in Nelson?
No, I was down in Christchurch.
Down in Christchurch,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So expected return around February, did you say?
Yes. So about 4.5 months, 5 months return to play. So mid-Feb, hoping to be around the start of that super season, maybe around 1 or 2, or to see how it goes.
Yeah, so I suppose you've still got the pre-season training to try and build up before you're 100% going into games. Is that right?
Yeah. So December will look a little bit different for me compared to someone who's not injured, but so I'll be on an individual sort of plan, and then heading into Jan, Feb, I'll be sort of back with the team trying to build that contact load and that rugby fitness, and climbing into it.
And you can't really join the lads for golf on the weekend, can you? It's a bit difficult. So
golf, fishing's even a bit tough. So
is that right? But you do try and get out, do you?
Yeah, well, not so much since I've been in the sling, but once I'm out, I'll see what the physios will let me do. Yeah.
Can you jog with a arm in a sling, or is it just too difficult?
I haven't actually tried. I'm not really allowed to yet. So surgeon caught up with him last week and just said I can sit on a watt bike and I'm allowed to sweat now. So now I've been doing a bit of that, a bit of sauna and stuff like that. Yeah.
Something for the legs anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. Well, we're going to try and talk more with you about what's going to happen next season, leading into next season. But before that, let's talk about the Mako season so far. And first of all, the dreaded quarterfinal. And didn't Canterbury turn up to play? I didn't make it over the hill, but I was on the side of a bank with a weed eater. But I set myself up with the commentary. And I listened to, the prior to the game, and they were going through the lineups, and I started reading out the Canterbury names, and I thought to myself, geez, they're not reading out the All Black side, are they? I mean, there was 2 All Black props. There was Braden Enor in the team. Drummond had made a return, and
Sam Darry.
Yeah, exactly, as well, Sam Darry, because I actually didn't make that connection. I thought maybe he was from Waikato or something like that. So I didn't even comprehend that he was Selwyn. Is that Selwyn College, I think, they talked about. But I thought, geez, that's a pretty good side. And then I got that feeling, oh, geez, I think they're going to be up for this. But, against Taranaki, the thing was that they got that great start. And I thought, geez, how are we going to come back from that? And at one point in the second half, we were only one converted try off of making a comeback. And then, unfortunately, play didn't go our way, and they got another try, and that was the end of the game pretty much. So I even thought as they started, and especially towards the end of the first half, I thought, geez, we've got one back here. The second half is going to be strong. But I mean, and I certainly didn't expect that score, but it is amazing how some of the scores this season have really blown out when the rub of the green goes your way. So Canterbury obviously up for it. They got the big win. Thoughts, Les?
Oh, look, they got lucky at the end of the season with the All Blacks that they got released. If you've got Fletcher Newell and George Bell and Sam Darry in your forward pack, you're doing pretty well. And the forward that was released to us, Ethan Blackadder, unfortunately pulled a calf muscle and didn't make the field. So, it was a case of they were coming right at the right end of the season. And for the Mako, a pretty tough end to the season themselves, with Storm Week, 2 Ranfurly Shield defences, and then up against Canterbury. So, I was disappointed with the scoreline, but then again, I kind of understand it as well. My question for Quinn is, do you think there was any, post Ranfurly Shield fatigue or deflation that set in for the side?
Yeah, I think it was a huge ask defending the Shield in the Storm Week in round 10 of a comp. There's no doubt it sort of smashed the energy levels of the group, but I think it's always a huge ask, and when you come up against quality side like Canterbury, doesn't matter sort of who's on the field, you're going to have to play your best footy, and it was pretty evident we didn't play our best footy. But you could say it's down to a bit of a hangover from that Storm Week and Shield defences and big games.
And injuries, Quinn, eh? They ended up happening all at the wrong end of the season. Of course, yourself, Jimmy Tavatava Nawai, and then, go out and Canterbury kick off, and Fletcher Anderson receives the ball and his hamstring goes. Minute one, and you're replacing your one of your better ball carrying forwards in Fletcher Anderson. So just a lot of injuries in the latter half of the season, I think.
Yeah, there was, and guys like Jim and even Sione had that head knock, so he didn't play. Then Hicksy hasn't been playing, and just the experience you lose. Guys who have been there and done it before. But in saying that, it was a great opportunity for the young guys who have been probably playing club here through the year, and the experience they'll get from this season in those games. They know the benchmark, and they know where they've got to be at. So it's kind of exciting for guys like that.
I had a mate that went to the game in Mulberry's a Mulberryan, and his comment was, Canterbury just didn't put a foot wrong. Everything they touched was almost mistake-free. The defence was on song. Obviously, their attack was on song. There was just something in the air, and they were on fire, and there was not much you could do about it. I'm sure the boys didn't feel like that way. They probably, thought that they would be able to come back, but his observation was not particularly that the Mako played terribly. It was just that Canterbury just had one of those games that, stacked, on fire and full of class. So I guess you could say. But we've shown we can match those kind of team. So I guess the boys will say, because we talked about it, didn't we, prior to that match? We said, how do you think the boys are falling? They said, oh, no, we're up for this. We're up for this. So you're never going to think otherwise, are you?
No.
It's just on the day. Yeah. Even if you don't recognise it, you're mentally or physically a bit drained. But, sometimes you might think that, and then, you have a blinder, don't you?
Yeah, that's it.
You can't read it on the day. Yeah. Yeah. So,
Credit to a couple of players, though.
yeah, sure.
So I thought Red, Finlay Christie, just tackled his heart out against wave after wave, if you like, of attack, and he tackled low, and Braden Stewart came on early in the game for Fletcher Anderson. He tackled well, and I think that Antonio Chalfoun, your locking partner, continued to, do his very best. He was the one with big body that we had trying to take on a pretty impressive forward pack. So, those three players can hold their heads high, I think.
Yeah, very much so. We're going to talk about the season because, I mean, we're talking about a quarter final, which we lost, and the boys will be hurting from. But, we're going to talk about an incredible season, really, when you sum it up. I mean, finals footy is a different game, and we didn't go all the way, but look at the season we had. So we're going to go more through that.
Yeah.
But before we do that, we've got semi-finals on Saturday. We've got Plenty. What a great win by them. They
Tipped over Hawke's Bay.
Yeah, that's right. And they've had a great season. They've been up there on the table, but Hawke's Bay traditionally always been one of those teams that can get across the line. So Bay of Plenty to get that win, all ups to them. And now they take on the Mitre Canterbury, but they do have a home ground advantage. That's 4-10 on Saturday. So thoughts on that game, lads, after actually playing against both teams?
Yeah, I think it'll be an interesting game. I think losing the All Blacks for Canterbury, the guys will have to step up who are replacing them.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they will. They're all quality players. But yeah, Bay at Plenty at home. It's tough to travel there. It's and they've got some really, really hardcore fans. So I think they'll be hard to beat. But I think I don't know. What it'll come down to is probably the set piece and who can play on the right edge of the field. As you've seen with our quarterfinal, we didn't play the right area of the field, and just the amount of pressure it puts on yourself. So whoever wins that territory in the set piece battle, it'll help. But yeah, again, Bay of Plenty is an exciting side. So yeah, I'm not picking anyone, but
Coin toss, you reckon?
Yeah.
Coin toss on that one.
Yeah.
And then another huge one, and Waikato wrapped to get the win, weren't they? And wouldn't say necessarily it's an upset because they are a good side, aren't they? Just the season hasn't gone their way. We only just managed to nudge one across the post to get the win, which is a great win by the Mako. But I don't think Waikato were expected to win this game, but they did. And Wellington, they've had their ups and downs, but on the whole, they've been fairly consistent, and they're a very tough side, and we're probably the favourites for the comp. So they're at home against Waikato. So thoughts on that one?
Oh, I think Wellington at home, number 1 seed. Waikato did very well to beat Taranaki at New Plymouth.
Oh,
So, they'll be buoyant, but I think this is a particularly good Wellington team. Credit to Tasman, beat them for in the first Shield defence. But yeah, to me, it's Wellington. Well, I'm going to pick a Wellington Bay of Plenty
Final.
Yeah,
The Boppers are going to do it.
I think so. I you can't count out any Canterbury team, especially one led by Mitchell Drummond. He's a crafty player, that fellow, and his forwards love running off him. But I just think, I think the Bay of Plenty can get up at home.
Yep. So brings me back to the format. In a little while, because Canterbury ended up 6. And it is a little bit unfair. I mean, we always do this, don't we? We complain about, well, how come the All Blacks can just waltz in and stack a team during the final and then just disappear again? And then on the other side of the coin, we say, wouldn't it be great to have all our All Blacks play in the sides? It's a hard on those guys that go whole season, playing for their team and get them into that position, and the All Blacks just waltz in and then disappear again. But Canterbury ends up 6th, just. And now potentially will go into the final. Is that fair? And I look at rugby league, and the top 3 get a second chance. And why can't we go to a format like that where the top 2 or 3, if you lose the prelim, you get another crack?
Yeah, you could do that. Where your 1 and 2 seeded players get a week off.
Yeah.
And then you could have some, so you'd have a top 6 basically, is what you're saying, which might create that extra week of rugby that would get rid of Storm Week. So yeah, it's a valid argument, but I think the beauty of this comp is anyone can win it. Any counties. Manukau came into the top 8 with some great form, Wellington had to play superbly well to beat them and did. So, I don't begrudge Canterbury getting into the 4 from 6 spot. I just think that's the nature of the rugby, and I don't mind that the All Blacks played either.
But, my thing doesn't, and I'm not basically making excuses for the Mako, but they go most of the season not losing a game. It makes a bit of a mockery of the rest of the season, doesn't it? Because if you look at Canterbury and their performance earlier in the season, they only just scraped into that top 6 and now potentially could win the final. How is that rewarding performance for teams throughout a season? Apart from the fact that they might get bonus points, comes down to one knockout game and that's it. That's not, to me, a reward for the season. So any thoughts on that, Quinten?
Yeah, I think Super Rugby's heading that way. Have you seen that?
Right, yes.
Yes, that's heading that way. I think for me, it's it could be a cool concept for the future. But the thing is, as a player, you just play what the rules are. The only thing I'd probably look at is the bonus point system. So, you can win a game 5 points with a bonus point, but you can lose a game and come away with 2.
Yes.
So you look at the games won and lost on the tables. Guys have only won 4 or 5 games, and they're still in the hunt for a playoff. So
that's right. Yes,
I think personally, if you lose, you lose. If you win, and you win by 4 or more tries, that should be a bonus point win. You shouldn't be able to come away with 2 points, if you got well beaten.
Well, I asked that earlier in the season because I noticed a couple of sides there with the bonus points. I was thinking, well, hang on, they haven't won as many games. Les reminded me about, it was brought in around about the time to encourage attacking rugby because it was quite defensive and people were saying it's getting a bit boring. And so, my thought was, shouldn't we just go on points difference for and against? Is that enough incentive? You were suggesting perhaps not?
Oh, look, I'm happy enough with the current system of, if you've played well enough and you're within 7 points at full time and you get a bonus point for, staying in the hunt, and it's to encourage players to stay in the game right till the end, minutes. Then I'm okay with that. And I'm also okay to reward a team for scoring 4 or more tries. Let's not forget against Taranaki, we got an attacking bonus point there because we scored 5. So yeah, look, until someone changes it is what it is, and I think we just got to basically get on with it. I don't think it's a question of fairness or not.
It's our job to question.
Okay, well, I'm pleased you are, and I'll just say I'm quite happy.
You're happy with it?
Yep.
Well, I've got a few issues, but that's not just with rugby. You were the Mako Rugby Roundup, and our special guest is Mako skipper Quinten Strange. And Quinten, the Mako reached the quarterfinals, and it was the same result as last year. But really, this season it had the feeling of, and it was a much better season throughout the season. So, if you were going to be the teacher and you were going to mark it, what are we saying? A to F.
There won't be an F.
Would you? Is that a pass or a fail? Is it?
So you know how it used to be on your report card. You could get an A plus,
or you could get an F,
or you could get a minus, or Look, it might be a bit tough on Quinn to ask him first, but I'll go. Look, I'd give this season a B plus. It's very close to an A minus, but I think having lost those 3 games in the last 4 matches just makes giving an A grade difficult. But I think it was a much better season than 2023, even though both sides made the quarters. It just felt better. It looked better. The team looked happy. They were well led. They were well coached. It was a good year, and B plus is a pretty good score from my point of view. If I'd got that at school all the way through, I would have been more than happy.
Quinn, like if we look at the season compared to the last couple of seasons, which were I guess for me it felt like a rebuilding phase because we'd lost quite a few regular players through All Blacks or what have you. Injury did play a part, and it didn't quite go your way. But at one point throughout the season, we were sort of starting to go, wow, it's really come together. The team culture is working really well. They haven't lost a match yet. It was really building to something special. So I think in the end, during the season, only 2 losses?
Yeah.
2 losses apart from the quarterfinal.
Yeah, Otago and Taranaki.
Geez, you'd take that any day, wouldn't you? If you said that at the start of the season. What did you feel this season? Was it different, or was just luck a little bit more on your side with injury?
No, I think the boys clicked, and I thought Corny and Hoon, another year on in their coaching careers, they've stepped up again. And then also Aaron coming over from Leinster brought a different view. But I think the boys was really brought into what we're trying to achieve. Everyone was playing for something, whether it be a super contract, another Mako contract, a contract overseas, or whatever it is for the following season. So everyone was trying to put their best foot forward. And also it was, we lost Mitch Hunt and Alex Nankivell, who were huge leaders in the group and have been for a long time. So it was a fresh voice in Willie Harvilli, Tane Robinson's, Louis Chapman's, guys like that stepping up and leading the team, or having been able to lead the team, not sitting behind anyone. So I think those guys stepping into those leadership roles brought a fresh voice, some fresh energy. They were able to sort of show their leadership skills and learn as well. And from when we come together to, just the other day when we broke up, and it's been an awesome culture, like one of the best ones I've been involved in. Yeah. So, and that's a credit to the boys.
And there was some stars this year, wasn't it? I mean, Ryan Coxon, what a great season, he had. Anderson off the back. I kept on saying, who's that guy? He stepped up to the mark, didn't he?
Yeah.
Willie Avilli, I just thought, the way that he controlled that number 10, his time with Mana Samoa and, working under
Tonga.
Tonga. Yeah, Tonga as well. Sorry, I should say that, Tonga. He had a little bit of time with, was it Rob Jones, the Welsh player? Yeah, so, he still did he said he still did his own thing, but there was just little gems that he picked up along the way. And I just felt that his game, especially his kicking game, just grew to another level. And sometimes during the season, he just had it on a string, didn't he? He sprayed brilliantly. Tawata Naivai, I mean, he just went to another level, didn't he? At times, he was the forward pack as well as the back line, wasn't he? The amount of steals he got this year and the tackles that he made. So, and then our friend Anton came back into the season, didn't he?
Antonio,
I should say, Shalfoon,
Yeah.
came back into the lock position, and and he just just had an awesome part of the season. He just made that difference, didn't he?
While you two were on the park, that we had a nice, big, aggressive second row, which is pretty critical. Supporting Ryan Coxon and Sam Martinga and Quinten McDonald up front. Did you enjoy playing with Antonio this year?
Yeah. No, I've played a bit of rugby with him, but this is by far the best sort of footy I've seen him play, which is awesome. Like, real credit to him, because he has had his injury woes, and but again, like, you can't forget he forced himself into a starting position at the Crusaders this year as well. So it just shows the sort of year he's had and the willingness he is to further his career. So I love playing with him, and I know he really cares as much about this province as what I do. So no, it's exciting. Hopefully next year we can stay on the field for a bit longer together.
And then this little fella turns up, a guy called Will Butler, playing rugby in Auckland. It turns out he was the under-21 England captain, just been sort of lost in the vortex somewhere, and then turns up and not a big guy. So we're thinking, well, how's he going to handle it? But it wasn't really about his strength. It was just about his thinking game, wasn't it? His ability to run the lines and put the fellas in the holes, but at times dummy that and go himself, and just a smart player, and just stepped up into that number 12 position and made it his own, really, didn't he? Just what a great season he had.
Yeah, it was like again, like I first met him, and I was like, "Oh, is he 12?" Yeah. But nah, he brought right into the culture, and he was another one who we were yarning a couple of weeks ago. He said he's never been involved in a culture like this before, and so like just having that, he wanted to put his best foot forward, and yeah, what a find! He's great man. He's obviously shot back to England now, but yeah, he was an awesome guy to have in the group.
And part of a couple of the stories was almost like people getting a second wind. You know, I think of Ryan Coxon with all the injuries he's had, but he was able now to get a consistent season, and just look what he was able to achieve. And he might be thinking, well, there's not too much rugby left in me, and all of a sudden people are going to be noticing that season, aren't they? And you never know what comes out of it.
Yeah, well, he's got a contract with the Force, as I understand it. So he's been well rewarded. He has been excellent. He got talking about Will Butler, he got Rookie of the Year in the team awards. And Coxie got Defender of the Year, which is unusual for a prop, I'm telling you.
That got mentioned on the national commentary. That, you know, would you believe the prop got best defender? But there you go. You know, just worked his ass off all year. Yeah. So, you know, so if you're going to market Quinten, and you're allowed to be biased, would you give them an A, or do you think a B plus is fair?
I think a B plus probably fair. Like if we're talking about success, in my mind, it's did we win the comp or not? And we didn't. It fell short through whatever reasons, you know, and the reviews and process now. We'll get stuff out of it. But yeah, I think it's been an awesome year in growing the team and also seeing guys come back to the region. Unlucky, but Red, Finley Christie, he was massive for us this year.
Yeah, well, you must talk about Finley Christie, of course.
His leadership around the group, helping both sides of the ball. Yeah, he was a guy that probably changed our game a lot, or helped it out, helped us push us through those tight games as well. So, as much as we all hated not to see him in the All Blacks environment, we loved to see him and enjoyed himself back here. So he was a guy that probably made a huge difference. But yeah, B plus for me.
Mako can't, you know, at the back playing, you know, stepped into that fullback role. You know, did a great job, didn't he?
Yeah. Don't know if Mako's a fullback yet, or if he's certainly a winger. But you know, he did fill a position and a need, and played reasonably well, and for much of the season, certainly played a lot of rugby. But I'm interested in your mark there, Chris. What would you give the boys?
Well, I thought B plus was a bit harsh. I thought I'd give you an A because you only lost 2 games for the season, and that's my issue with the sudden knockout. I know that's grand final football, and that's the way it used to be, but that's, I think, why the league changed it for a second chance. You get rewarded for, you know, performing well throughout the whole season, and you get a second chance. And there's been plenty of examples in that league where you've lost a prelim, but you've come back and scraped through, you know, in a semi-final. You just might have one bad day, you know. So I do think that some of those teams were building, like Wellington, Taranaki, Canterbury, you know, and then, of course, when players come back for injury and they get All Blacks back, it's a different killer fish. That's why I was quite surprised that Taranaki, you know, they just looked so good against us that they didn't go further. But that's footy, and that just goes to show, look at counties when they turned it on. Absolutely annihilated. It was Wellington, wasn't it? They annihilated. Yeah. So I just think it's on the day, but that's why I just thought it was a fantastic season. Yeah, so I'd be prepared to give you an A, but you get an A plus if you win the comp.
Yeah.
So Quinn, you're on the park against Hawke's Bay. Now, let's not forget 29 glorious days of winning and having the Ramfurly Shield in the region. That was a
well, surely that takes it to an A. Sure, you know.
A glittering time, and an important part of our province's history as we go into the 20th anniversary next year. So that said, you were on the park against Hawke's Bay for that win. So the game was interesting, wasn't it? you're up 19-5 at halftime. What were the words in the sheds at that point?
Yeah, it seems like ages ago now, but it wasn't.
No.
Yeah, obviously we had a really good first half, and 19-5, like you'd take that halftime in a Shield game as the challenger, and I think the main thing was for us is don't take away our intent, keep playing, because we're going to know at some point in this half momentum's going to swing, so just making sure that when we're able to grab the game back, we're there. And as you said, or as you've seen in that second half, it did swing, and it swung massively.
They're the comeback kings, aren't
Yeah,
they?
they are.
Hawke's Bay, they always at the death, they're coming back at you, aren't they?
Yeah.
So that's their footy. They love doing that.
They're a very proud Ranfurly Shield province, and they admit that. So yes, that is true, that you would have had to have expected that, and sure enough, it happened. And in the last 3 minutes, they score a try, and the bloody kicker kicks it from the sideline to get a point lead on you.
Yeah.
3 minutes to go. What were you saying under the post?
We just got the boys and had a breath just to refocus, and then we just said what we were going to do next. So that was a short kickoff where we could try and get the ball back. I can't remember. We didn't get the ball back, whatever.
No, they played with the ball.
Yeah.
And they played negatively with the ball. They didn't do anything with the ball, right? They just tried to kill time.
Quinten was just standing there and letting you guys take him down. That's right.
So well, that was the plan anyway. We tried to get a short kick so we could have an opportunity at winning the game, and we knew as soon as they were going into the one-off runners off 9, the Pistons were trying to shut out the game. We knew what we had to do as a group and as a team. We spoke around when teams are doing that, what's our plan, and a few phases went, and you seen Tony, and Tony made the tackle, which opened up the opportunity for Jim to get on the ball, and both of them, gave Campbell a chance.
I mean, I just couldn't believe it because, I was sitting in front of the TV going, that's it. It's done. It's gone. And I think I even turned away, and then I looked around and went, hang on, he's going to kick the goal.
That blast on the whistle must have been joyful for you, right? When you heard it.
Yeah, well, I was at the bottom of the previous ruck.
So
I just heard it, didn't really see it, and just looked up and, seen it was our penalty. And then I was actually sitting next to Hawke's Bay player. I can't remember his name, but he looked at me and said, it's going to be one hell of a kick.
yeah, that's right.
We both sort of laughed and just walked our separate ways. And,
and it was a hell of a kick. So,
well, of course, Willie was off the field. So, up steps the man. And of course, I mean, I didn't actually know too much about him, but there were a few that do know him very well that knows that he can kick the ball.
For Waimea Old Boys, he's kicked more than his share of those against Marist. So we know how far he can kick a ball. But no brainer to go for goal. And and then Campbell's talked that through. He said it wasn't even going through the middle until the very last few meters when it veered and went.
That's right. He said it was going the wrong way and he didn't quite hit it properly.
So joyful times.
Yeah, it was surreal. It was it's pretty special, like crazy. Just the way the whole game played out, and if winning a Shield in that sort of fashion at the end there, I think it'd be talked about this playing group for a long time.
Yeah, well, we were talking about that because even amongst us fans, 40 years' time, 30 years' time, 20 years' time, we'll all be talking about that last penalty in Campbell Parada. We'll all watch Campbell grow old.
That's right.
That was the man.
They'll make a movie out of him one day.
Yeah, one day.
And it was quite interesting when we were playing Wellington, in Blenheim. The Marlborough fans were talking about the 70s, and they, as a kid going to watch those games and the defences. And so you do hold on to those memories. And of course, Les and I were just saying, please do the job because, we may never see that again. And fortunately, I walked in here and managed to get my hands on it, which is something I may never, ever do again, which is, so that was a big thrill for people like us because, it's one of those things you might never happen to you in a lifetime. So to certainly play in that game and win the game Must have been a thrill. One of my favourite videos was the All Blacks sharing David Avilli and Ethan Blackadder, and I think Noah Hotham jumped up as well, watching the kick and just going nuts. The Tassie boys go ballistic, and just showed the passion that even though they're playing those higher honours, what it meant to them as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the thing that took the team back the most was we were all stoked and energy was high. We won it, but it wasn't until we got back to the region and started sharing with the community and the welcoming back we had, is what actually we realised the scale that we achieved for this province and both sides of the hill. Like, they talked about the 70s, and Nelson Bays had never had it, and people hadn't seen it since the 70s. So to be able to allow people the chance to hold it and see it, touch it, whatever, take photos, it's that's when it kind of realised the scale of what we had achieved as a team. So we wanted to hold on to it for as long as we could, and unfortunately slipped up in the last one for the year. But
tough day to do it.
It was a great 29 days.
Yeah.
And I think every Mako fan in this region has in their phone a photo of them with the shield, right?
Yeah.
And that will not be be I'm telling you now.
That's right. Well, the Wheat Lady did have your first defence. I mean, it was massive because, it could have been a short run because Wellington were on form. They were near the top of the table. Yes, they had a loss against Otago, but, they pretty much took a side down there that wasn't probably their A team. They had Billy Prott to come back into the side as well. And very early you go down with your injury. So, what was going through your mind then?
Oh, I was just, you're kidding. Like, I challenged, that was my third challenge, finally won it. And just not to be able to get the opportunity to win it back or defend it, as people say, but we spoke around it as winning it again. Not to be able to help the boys do that. It was hard. It was hard walking off the field. I was pretty frustrated, but I was able to pull my shit together and come back out of the sheds and watch the boys go to work. And man, I was proud.
They played well, didn't they?
They certainly did.
Yeah.
It was a wonderful performance. They are a classy team, but we just outclassed them. And it was pretty amazing. And it was a wonderful feeling that when that full-time whistle went, because it meant that we weren't a province that won it and lost it. We'd won it and held it.
Yeah,
won it twice, as you said. So that was pretty cool.
And then suddenly got Storm Week. So, that was interesting because when we were interviewing some of the guys, we were talking about the fact that you've got a shield, but there's still a job to do. There's still a season to play for. The shield is a bonus, but we've still got to get the points, and we've still got to try and make it into the finals and those kind of things. And then then you had to pre-plan for Storm, and you took a younger side down to Otago who didn't quite do the job, but great opportunity for those young lads to have a crack.
Yeah, I thought it was really exciting. I thought, in another year's time, they win that game. They had an opportunity to win, and it was great to see them put such a gritty performance in. Like, Otago held the ball for long periods. I think Hunter Lepine attempted 37 tackles or something like that. Like, that's crazy. It's
a lot of work.
Yeah, that's a lot of work, for a young guy in his first year in the team. And in this comp, you've got to trust your whole team and your whole squad and guys coming in and out. That's what we've learned in the last few years with Storm Week. So it wasn't really that these guys didn't deserve a chance, because they did, but it was that we kind of had to, and we had to trust them. So it was cool. Yep.
It was an amazing performance, and I think you're right. At the 65-minute mark, the Mako had that game under control, and then I think the referee suddenly realised that maybe the hometown needed to win the game, because the penalty count just then got lopsided against the boys. But so many youngsters. I think there were 8 debutants, and Louis Chapman captained the side.
He actually scored his first try for the Mako.
Right.
Yes, I was so stoked.
So
Yeah.
he had a couple of firsts,
Yeah.
Nick Sawira burst onto the scene. There was a lot to like about that, and I'd say the great majority of those debutants have a real future in the Mako jersey. So, and I don't blame us for taking that team down, because Storm Week consisted of 2 Ranfurly Shield defences within 4 days. So, it's spot on to see them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then Les, a rainy night on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
I mean, as soon as you won the Ranfurly Shield, I was just having a look on Facebook. Bang, Auckland. The date. Haven't won it for 15 years. They were just straight away. I honestly thought I think they thought they were going to come down here and do it.
Yeah, they did.
They thought, here's our chance,
They
I
were
don't know why they would think that.
They were talking about the number of years since they've had it, as though they deserved to finally get it back.
Yeah.
And little did they realise, and of course we had a bit of interest as fans, because Anton Signer's coming home.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that right? The team don't mention his name anymore. Is that how it works?
Oh, they can mention it now.
Yeah, that's true.
But it was another very good performance. Unfortunately, Jimmy had to play the second half on one leg, but still won more turnovers than Auckland did.
Yeah.
And he obviously knew he was injured, strapped it up, played on. But that was a big loss for what was coming up 4 days later. I heard there was a bit of an incident at the end of that game, a funny one, not a serious one. But when Ryan Coxon scored, he scored through Anton Signer, and apparently Tony Shalfoon ran around and rubbed his hair, and the referee said, "There's no need to be ungentlemanly."
Yeah.
Rubbing a bit of salt in the wound.
Yeah. Little did they know that we knew each other.
Yeah, I don't think Angus Gardner quite knew the connection. The connection there. So.
Right.
Well, and wasn't it a great coup to have him, ref? The fact he does that, but to have that quality on the part,
a good referee is not visible, is he?
No, and most people, even my partner, who she watches a bit of rugby, but she's not going to be. She doesn't claim to be any expert. She loves him as a ref, and I think it's because he just lets a game. There never seems to be a lot of blow up. He lets the game flow, but when he makes a decision, it's nice and firm. He just it's that. I think it's that confidence that he knows what he's doing. He'll make a call, wrong or right, and he's prepared to let a game flow. And so just a great experience to have him there and in the region.
And Finlay has been refereed by him at international levels. So as captain, he knew how to communicate with him. That's some insight we got off Hugh Bainan. That really helped. Let's talk about the Ranfurly Shield and what it means for the opposition, because my word, the intensity lifts in a Shield game, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And that's what it's tough any old Storm Week. I think that's why you hear people talk about this Storm Week defending the Ranfurly Shield twice in 4 days. So everyone goes through the Storm Week, but when you've got the Shield and you've got back-to-back home games in those four days, it is a huge ask. I don't think some people quite realise the scale of that. People that have won the Shield realise it. I think after we lost it to Taranaki, their coach, they came in the sheds and he just felt pretty bad for us, because first time we'd had it, and he apologised, obviously not that genuine, but but he felt for us, because I think Taranaki had the same thing a couple of years ago, knows what it feels like, so it's tough. But
he doesn't like the Storm Week at all. He's publicly come out about that. He just thinks there's got to be a way of finding the extra week, so you're not playing midweek. What's your take on Storm Week? Would you agree with him?
I think if there's an opportunity to find the extra week, I think it'll be better for the comp. I think you'd get a better quality of game through it consistently. and also like probably wouldn't have it in round 10 when us in Auckland had it. I don't think there was a storm week in round 2, maybe, so it potentially could have been then for the last 2 teams. But yeah, it's all sky and money.
Preliminary semi-finals.
Yeah, that's right. Go to your model of 1 and 2 get the week off, and there's only
Well, it'll be interesting to see
games.
how it goes in Super Rugby. I like the concept in league, but I don't know about the timings. So you're out of playing action, then you can't really twiddle your thumbs. You've got to get down to the park. So what do? Do you pitch in with Aaron Dundon and help out with the lineouts, or what happens?
Yeah, first sort of couple of days I was sort of trying to work out what I was busy trying to get scans and whatnot, trying to work out what my return to play looks like.
Can I get back next week?
Yeah, can I be back? Am I back for play? Whatever. But
yeah,
once I've worked all that out, I just worked real close with Aaron and Antonio, trying to help our line out, and I didn't want to be that guy talking too much, so I was just trying to chip in and help where I could. But I got to admit, it was tough being it. Going from your captain, your calling, what you want to do in your head, and planning out everything in weeks and stuff like that. You can do all this, but you're not on the field. And you're not there when the boys are playing. So you, to a degree, you've got to let them work things out. Yeah. So that
you got to take a little bit of a back set and let them take the leadership into the pitch.
A little bit, but I think for me, I just tried to help in terms of game scrap. Where are the opportunities against opposition, and what do we need to work on as a forward pack, and just trying to chip in and help that way. But yeah, quite early on in the season, we interviewed Aaron Dundon and didn't know a lot about the guy, so it was really interesting to hear about his background, and he explained his coaching method. Obviously, his story as a player and his journey and what he had learned off some great players and coaches, and then into his coaching, which was, again, quite by accident, wasn't it? Because he was put in a position where he never thought he'd be, because his brother played halfback, I think, and he didn't even know he's going to end up being a hooker. He thought he was going to be a halfback, and he ended up being a hooker. And then, of course, he's got to throw this ball in, and then he just worked on it, and then he learnt it, and then he learnt off others, and then it got into a coaching role, and then he was, because he was, I think, third string hooker for Leicester at the time. So at training, he was involved in trying to improve the line out, and then he went to France, and everything he learnt from Leicester, he brought into this team in France, and he was trying to tell them how to play the Leicester way, and it didn't work. And he learnt that you can't just go in and change a team right across the park. You've got to step back a little bit, and you've got to observe and then do tweaks. And it was a really interesting. And we thought, oh, this guy, he seems pretty switched on. I wonder how he goes. Man alive. When we started hearing about the performances and what was happening, especially the way that the forward pack was operating, we were quite intrigued about how much of an influence he had on that forward pack, and he's obviously kind of crept in there, and he just started observing and tweaking. And is that your experience of his contribution throughout the season? Yeah, I think in credit to him, he tried to do. Well, he did a lot of homework before he turned up.
Right.
So he watched a lot of footage of us, watched training footage. He talked to Dan Perrin. I had a couple of phone calls / Zooms with him, just trying to understand how units normally run and what's our line-out system and everything like that. So turning up, he wasn't just like bang, just nothing. But credit to him, he did observe and slowly started to chip in. And I felt like as the season went on, he got a bit more conservative, and the boys reacted well to that. So then, I really enjoyed having him as a coach. He's a great man and got some really cool stuff and some great ideas for us moving forward, whether he's back or not. But so I'm excited to see. Hopefully he can come back, but excited to see his future as a coach.
And then Hawani McDonald, because another big thing for us was our defence. Especially in our forward pack, the way that we took on some quite big forward packs, but like Auckland and Wellington, and controlled the game. And halfway through the season, we're just going, man alive, these guys are just on fire.
Look cohesive.
And we asked about the defence of Hawani, and his coaching. So, tell us about his contribution.
Yeah, I think when he first turned up, he was probably just trying to carry on to what Shane built. And Shane's a pretty unique human, as everyone knows, and as a coach, like he was hard on his players, but he got what he wanted and he got what he needed out of them, which was awesome. And then every year that Hoon's come back as a coach, he's got better and better and better. And this year, like he just went up a level. It was, I don't know,
something in the water.
I think he just got it, and then he made it so simple for the boys and the D group that he had around him as well. Speaking of, like, Jim was able to step up into a leadership role, help run the D. Red coming back, Sione was back from Tonga, Levi was in there. Just guys who hadn't probably previously had the responsibility of that got it, and they had their fresh eyes. They wanted to do well, so they led the way. And then all of a sudden, we were just clicking on D, and it was awesome. And yeah, that's why I think worked really well, and I'm excited to where Holmes' coaching career can go as well. But just what he's done for us as a group has been huge.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a system, or is it just good comms, or is it both?
Or are you giving away secrets?
No, I don't want to give away secrets. I don't need to know what the system is if there is one. But...
well, every team has a D system.
Yeah.
But essentially, it's just a guideline of rules of how you make your decisions, to be honest. That's the best way I could describe your phase D. And it's down to the individual to make the right decisions, and the coach has got to be able to drill into the player on how to make the right decision and how they learn. So that's the best way I can put around a D system. And obviously then you've just got your structures from set piece, so scrum and line out, kick off. Yeah. Yep.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Finally, Quinn, your teammates. So who amongst you really stepped up a cog this year that perhaps you weren't expecting?
There's a lot. I think Coxie, just from previous years, I think he's matured, and at times he's matured.
And that's fair.
Yeah. He really stepped up. And was awesome to see that, because someone in that front row needed to around our scrum and around the field, which was cool. In terms of backs, I think Jim probably grew another arm and leg, as you've seen. But even it was awesome to see Willie come back as well.
Yeah.
I knew Red was going to play well, but I don't know. There's a lot of people. Yeah.
Yeah, no, they're three great names, because I agree with them. I agree with you. They did. Coxie was interesting. First game 50 minutes, second game 60 minutes, third game 70 minutes, and then it was fundamentally, unless they could bring him off, he was an 80-minute player.
Yeah, he was.
It's just remarkable.
And the comment when I was listening, the commentators were saying, where's he from? And I think he's White Cat. And I was going, he's talking. And so it was really interesting to hear about his background.
And Jimmy won the stats on both sides of the ball. He won most meters carried, and he won most turnovers. So he was, until injured, he was leading all the stats on those two areas.
Yeah.
Willie, we've talked about that, but all of a sudden, finding a first five to replace Mitchell Hunt wasn't going to be easy, and Willie stepped up. 17 rookies got their Mako debut in 2024, which is a lot, and a lot of that had to do with Otago. But of those, you've mentioned Hunter Lepine, but of those, who impressed you the most? Who's got a wise head on young fella?
Kyron
Tamafala.
Yeah, he's some athlete. Yeah, big future. Well, he's already played for Tonga at World Cup. He's 21 or something.
He's played sevens and 15s for Tonga, I believe, and he is just a kid, eh?
Yeah.
But okay, awesome. And any others Any others? Anyone?
It's just there's a lot. Like there's guys coming through who are going to be really exciting, and I think Tane Himapo's probably got an opportunity to be pretty good. As a lock, watching him as lock 6, whatnot. Hunter's he's like Alex Ainley. I think he's young Alex Ainley. Yeah, he's coming through, got the grit, and so like there's guys that coming through that can replace people that have been here for a while, and which is exciting for the jersey. Yeah.
Last question. I like to do this. Who makes you laugh? Who in that group is the real character that just you'd like to be serious with him, but he just cracks you up?
Big T, he's pretty funny to be honest. Undercover and Carpy, they sort of give each other a bit of banter, but it's pretty hard to take guys like Max Hicks serious. He's just an idiot.
That's a good way. That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
So Tiahi Waru, Rika Davida, he's a bit of a fellow, big T or big knee, I think you guys call
Big
him.
T, yeah. I get along well with most people. People on the team. Yeah.
You mentioned Carfi. We interviewed Carfi on the podcast, and he was outstanding. He loves the game. He knows the game. He's articulate for a hard-nosed flanker.
Yeah,
he was great, wasn't he?
Yeah. It's not until you really get to know him, and then he starts sort of chipping away at you at training. Yeah, where is he? He's down there. But no, he's a good man. I've played against Carfi for.
I mean, that was one of the themes when we were asking about, who do you get around with and who do you get on with, and they just didn't pull out a name straight away. It was like, it's hard. We all kind of get on.
Yeah.
And if you're at a loose end and the call goes out, it just depends on who can turn up at the time, and especially around the golf, So that's the thing. He's had a great season. Plus, he's number one in the golf ladder apparently. Team, no, Coxie.
Coxie, yeah. He's a good golfer. Yeah.
So so he's had a great season, really, isn't he?
An amazing season.
Yeah. Hey, mate, just a little bit on. Obviously, we've talked about your injury, and you're hoping to by February to at least be mobile, but. Crusaders, have you had any preliminary discussions with anyone about the forthcoming season? It was a tough season for you guys. I mean, obviously a brand new setup, a brand new team, and I found it tough. But then, had a couple of great wins, and as Canterbury does, just comes back towards the end of the season. What is your feeling going into this season, this coming season? Is it potentially another young squad or similar squad, and they're just going to be growing another league?
Probably, I wouldn't want to call it young anymore. Like it's probably we don't have that excuse. I think there's a lot of guys probably a bit hurt from last year, to be honest.
Right.
So we're I know I'm pretty keen to right some wrongs and put my best foot forward and hold that trophy at the end of the year, but. I think first things first is we've got to get our preseason right, and it sounds like we've got some good plans involved for that, and looking forward to climbing in.
Yeah, fantastic. And we might hear some more signings, but quite an interesting signing, with an ex-Wallaby, a fantastic player for the Wallabies, and O'Connor.
Yeah.
So interesting. Interesting that I think last year it was the Welsh fullback that had the signing, and so it's interesting they bring in a player like that, potentially obviously can still play, but possibly more so around just the experience that they bring. Probably difficult to ask you, but why sign a marquee player like that that's perhaps at the end of their career as opposed to up and coming?
Well, I can see the thinking in it. I think if you look at the teams we've got, two young teens, probably having someone for them to lean on, I think.
It's mentoring, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I think
that's what I would say. Yeah.
I think Quinn's right there. He may or may not play too many games, but he'll certainly be mentoring those two young to Kamara, something like that. I think is the other young fellow's name. But they are young. They are young, and Boy Happy, is he part of the squad still?
No, I don't think so.
The counties,
No.
5.
Nah, he
No.
was injury covered.
He was injury covered. So, it is a first five's pretty critical position. They had Fergus Burke all lined up to be the replacement to Richie, but he decided to go overseas. And I hear, you probably are hearing this too, but maybe they're courting Richie to come back at some point. So in the meantime, James O'Connor's role is to mentor the two youngsters.
I mean, is he still playing, O'Connor?
Yeah.
Oh, he is. So
He's been with the Reds. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, pretty handy. When he's on, isn't he?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, look, mate, we wish you a very speedy recovery. Congratulations on the season. Well led. Sorry about the injury. Yeah, that's footy, isn't it? But, speedy recovery. Look forward to you having a good pre-season, and certainly look forward to seeing you in the Crusaders colours during next season. And of course, hopefully, cross fingers, back for Mako 2025. So
Yeah, I'll be here. Yeah.
you'll be here. Good to hear. Good to
That is
hear.
wonderful to hear.
And
Keep you and Antonio together, that would be great.
in the meantime, hopefully get some one-handed fishing.
Yeah,
out there
that's
at
it.
the
Yeah,
moment.
yeah.
All
Of
right.
course. No,
Thank you very much for coming in. And thanks to Mako skipper Quinten Strange. Thank you, Les, once again, as we're getting near the pointy end of the season, aren't we? Just about time to get your pads out, Les, and get the cricket bat out.
The cricket bat on board, yeah.
And we'll be doing our last podcast next week with the coach.
Ray Cornelius.
Yes, so we'll be able to see how the season went from his perspective. You can listen to this and other podcasts on talknelson.co.nz, also on Spotify. Just look for MBS Talk Nelson, and also on our social media channels, Facebook and Instagram. Until then, thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you again next week.
The Mako Rugby Roundup. What's on, where, and when. It's the Talk of Nelson. NBS Talk Nelson.